Thank you all for joining on this last session of what I think was a very long and very productive day. We've assembled a really great panel for you guys to finish off the day in style. As you know, the theme of this 50th MIP anniversary is all about formats of the future. And I think in order to finish it off, we decided to talk about formats of the future and their interaction with social media and try to understand this difficult question. So to answer this question, we've put together a panel of industry experts coming from all different aspects of the industry, from left to right, from your right to my left. Let's start with the ladies first with Virginia. Virginia is the co-founder of The Wit, which is a leading agency specialized in research and information on TV programs globally. She has a very interesting background. I'm sure she's happy to share with you during the cocktails later on with philosophy and degrees in psychoanalysis and business. But really, she's well known in the business for having founded in '96 The Wit and the different services that they now distribute. The Wit, the Daily Wit, the Fresh, the Cool, but also the little brother, the Wit Spotter, that she will talk to us a bit more about in coming up just now. Launched about 2 years ago. Selma Turajlic, sorry, I butchered your name yet again. Selma was recently the head of interactive media and licensing for All3Media International. She was there responsible for the exploitation of the entire All3Media portfolio of TV shows across interactive media and consumer product. She has a great background before and great experience in interactive media at Caldor International before it was bought and after it was bought by Two Way Traffic. And she is a person responsible, amongst other shows, for having brought us all the interactivity around Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Dragon's Den. She recently left, as I said, All3Media, but we'll talk about her next venture, Little Dot Studio, in a second. Rhys, between Selma and next to Selma over there, is a VP of Business Development at RTL Group. He's focusing on driving growth and digital innovation to the core businesses of RTL. I'm not sure we need to talk much about RTL, the 53 TV channels, the 28 radio stations, and so forth in 10 countries, but of course as well the production company Fremantle Media. But Rhys has been at RTL since '99 when he joined their news magazine, their lunch news magazine. He then went on to RTL Interactive and was also most recently assistant to the CEO of RTL, Gerhard Zeiler. Josh Pollack, President of Corporate and Strategic Partnership and Global Brand Management at Relativity. Relativity is a company that very few people know in Europe, but it's actually has become very quickly the largest independent studio and probably the most disruptive. We'll talk about what they do in a few minutes, but in his current role, Josh oversees the strategic relationships and all the partnerships with all the brands, as well as all the different companies that leverage their global distribution platform. He has a great background in consulting, had studies on consulting firm called Next Communication Corporation, advising across a whole range of media activities from movie production to sports entertainment, and we'll talk about some of the experience in a second. And finally, don't hold it against him, but he started his career as an agent at CAA. I know it's terrible, but he was in the motion picture department. And finally, Frank von Oirschot is the co-founder and CCO of Ex Machina, which is one of the leaders in second screen strategy, concept, and technology. Frank has worked in the online business even before it was an online business, since '94. And so he has a very deep understanding of the space. And Ex Machina, for those of you who don't know, works with multiple players in the business, not only production companies like Talpa, Endemol, and Fremantle, but also broadcasters like RTL, TF1, and NBC in the US. So this afternoon, we'll try to keep you awake and try to organize a conversation around 4 different themes. But to get us started, we thought that we could ask Virginia to talk to us about the Wit Spotter and some of the latest trends that they're discovering, and just to get the conversation started.
Good afternoon. So the topic was format of the future. Will it come from social media? At the WIT, we have two main departments. The one that we've been doing for the last 17 years is tracking all the new shows around the world. And 2 years ago, we decided that at every launch of a new show, at every premiere, we would measure the buzz around the launch, around those premieres. So every time a new show shows up on the screen, which for us means approximately 50 to 80 times per day, we calculate if people talk about it on social media, and that's the WIT Spotter way of life. So to introduce this session, we thought, which one are the top 10 most social TV premiere of the season, which means what are the top 10 of the premieres that created the most buzz since last September, and we did it until mid-March. So let's have a look at the 10 titles. The first one is the format Celebrity Splash in France. Second one, Celebrity Splash in Spain. Third, The Voice in Spain. Fourth, Star Academy in France, then The Voice again in Brazil. The sixth one is The Bible, which is obviously the best format of all times. It's the only one, the Bible is a scripted show, it's a fiction. The seventh, again, Celebrity Splash. The eighth is also a scripted format, it's Real Husbands of Hollywood, which tells the life of the husbands of Hollywood stars. The ninth is Catfish, the TV show on MTV. And the 10th is Buck Wild, which is a factual show telling the life of the young and feisty redneck young guys in America, in small town America. Compared to this, which one are the best-selling formats of the season? We evaluated what, thanks to our Fresh TV database, which format has been the most adapted or optioned. We took the adaptation that have already been made since the beginning of the season, and the adaptations that are announced until the next summer. So the first one is The Voice, the second is Celebrity Splash, and the third one is The Great British Bake Off, which you didn't find in the previous top 10 of the most social TV shows. In the fourth place, you have Your Face Sounds Familiar from Endemol and Stars in Danger, The High Dive from Banijay. Stars in Danger being a similar format as Celebrity Splash. The concept is you watch celebrities diving. The Audience, that was launched last year, that was promoted last year at last MIPTV. In the fifth place, it's Mein Man Can and Come Date With Me. So probably you all know these titles, but we have focused on the first three to analyze their social media behavior. Are their success, their international success, linked to their social media success, or do they have different behavior? So we saw that the three hit formats have three different social media behavior. Let's start with the Great British Bake Off. We labeled it social media shy. Before, we calculate also in the WIT Spotter the anticipation of the formats. Do people talk about the new shows before they are really launched? So it happens mostly on Facebook. Do they like it before the show is launched? Do people talk about the topic, about the content before the show is launched? So in the case of the Great British Bake Off, which is a pastry contest, it had a discreet social media promotion. They didn't, the channel, the producer didn't invest in the social media promotion. During the airing, it had a moderate social media activity, meaning that people did not comment a lot on Twitter or Facebook, even if it became an international success. It didn't have really a high social media activity. And after, after the show ends on television, we can also evaluate if social media, if people are faithful, if there are a fan base that is active around this format. And we observed that to a moderate level, there were regular gains in fan and followers on the Facebook page and on the Twitter account, which means that after, people didn't comment a lot, but still, the show, the format gained fans on Twitter and Facebook. So we would say it was, I wanted to call it social media abstinent because it didn't invest a lot in social media promotion or marketing, but actually it's only social media shy because after the airing, the show gets more fans on a regular rhythm. The second one, celebrity splash, I would call it social media spontaneous. Before, if we calculate the anticipation, it has a very discrete social media promotion. For instance, the first, the format was launched in the Netherlands in August 2012, and they had no official page on Facebook. So, of course, it was not a social media marketing. So before, there was not a high anticipation. On the contrary, for instance, you have a lot of American new series that have a Facebook page much before the launch, and they have a lot of anticipation. They had a record number of comments, of hilarious comments, because actually it's spontaneously people were watching the show, and at the same time on their second screen they were commenting, tweeting, because what do they see in this format? They see celebrities diving, where of course it's a fascinating action, but celebrities are hesitating before diving, so there's not much happening. In fact, it's a very funny show, very successful show, but you see celebrities totally afraid of diving from a 10 meters high diving board, so you have time to tweet. Meanwhile, will he jump? Will she jump? Is she too scared? So record number of hilarious comments on all all version in all countries of Celebrity Splash. After, no significant fan or follower gains. So this means it's really social media spontaneous because people are active during the airing of the show, but there's no anticipation before, and after there's not a fan base that grows when the show is over. And the third one, The Voice, I would call it social media native because it had a big social media strategy and strong engagement from the viewers. Before the launch, high anticipation because it was announced. There has of course, you will have more details later on the strategy, but before, high anticipation, Facebook page, Twitter account. During, lots of comments because it's linked to the nature of the show. It's a casting show, it's a singing contest. So by nature, the show triggers a lot of comments, and also because the jury of The Voice are celebrities, so you have a lot of comments on the jury, on the celebrities. And after, the show has a constant fan growth. So even when the show is over, the fans are liking, are following the show, maybe because there will be also a new season of this very successful show, but also because by nature, The Voice is social media format. So to conclude, you have three factors of integration of social media in the TV shows: the social strategy of the broadcaster and the producer, the nature of the show, because of course singing contest, talent shows are by nature participation shows, And when you see the celebrity splash, you have plenty of time to comment during the show, and of course the target of the show, because we can imagine that the British Bake Off maybe was, the audience was a bit older, which doesn't mean they can't be social, but still maybe the audience maybe does not tweet as quick as they would do in Celebrity Splash. So that was my introduction, and thank you very much.
Thank you. So, thank you, Virginia. So three different shows, three different strategy. Let's start with the last one, which is The Voice, and start by being very, very concrete. And we're lucky enough to have on the panel the folks who actually have worked on The Voice. What I thought we should start by doing, Frank, if you don't mind, is for you to give us an example and show the folks in the audience today what exactly in practice you're doing and how you're engaging different users on different platforms.
Yep, thank you. I'm going to show you a bit about the home companion that we made for The Voice, originally in Holland, and that has traveled by now to Finland, Canada, and Belgium, and hopefully a lot more countries to follow. The thing is that we try to create an extra level of experience, kind of a second storyline that is making you part of the whole game, and we do that actually by putting a lot of gamification on top of what happens on the first screen. What you see here is the blind auditions. Actually, before that, before the show starts, people can listen to part of the show and then make a prediction whether it will be somebody that will be picked to go to the next level. That's one of the most successful parts. Actually, we have more traffic on the application before the show than during the show, because people really like this. And if they do that, they see it back in the first screen, what the results were. So that's a very powerful part of the application. The second part is the battles. Well, you kind of choose there, similar to what people do on the first screen. We have the live shows where you also are going to do some rating. This rating comes then live back in the red room, which I'll show in a second. We have a stock exchange where you can actually trade candidates and win points, and in that way win big prizes from the sponsor Vodafone. This is the red room, which is part of the first screen presentation, where they show what people at home a few seconds before have been rating or saying about the candidates. Some facts. We cannot tell a lot, but this is some of the data that has been made public before. In Holland, 20% of the viewers had downloaded the app. That were about 650,000 downloads. And more than 10 million games have been played. So that's quite big numbers. And well, the sponsor Vodafone and RTL have been very happy about that. What is missing a bit is to take this engagement to the next level, because a lot of people are participating on one moment before the show and during the show. But we have seen that there's a need or a desire by the people playing the game to be more involved at more moments. So we have been looking to ways to increase the engagement even further. And we also have been looking to find some monetization possibilities to make it also a more profitable business. This means that instead of having different channels for video and for social and for Twitter, we are now planning to integrate everything in one platform. And that gives you basically the possibility to have much more points of contact and to use the traffic that you have during the shows and before the shows also to other moments. One of the parts you see in here is during the commercial break. One thing we see in this kind of shows is that when there is a commercial break, everybody's going away. And by bridging the attention span during a commercial break, we can be much more valuable for the sponsors and the churn will be less. All the content is going to be in one place, so you now have different, now in a lot of cases have different destinations for different parts of the content. By integrating that, you have much more upsell and cross-sell, and much more attention time. And there is a number of new revenue possibilities that come along with that. We have the voting, which is the original business model, and the same goes for downloads on iTunes. But merchandise and premium offerings are feasible in this kind of a model as well.
Great. Well, thank you. I think you've given us a great overview of something that's working well, which is the voice. So my first question for you guys, for the panel, especially for you, Selma, is, are you seeing different types of engagement on different platforms? So do you, in terms of user behavior or user engagement, are users and our fans at home behaving differently when they interact on Twitter, as on Facebook, on YouTube, or Pinterest, and so forth?
Sure. I mean, I would like to take it a step back. I mean, at All3Media, we, I think, have something like 16 million fans across 7 or 8 of our shows, Facebook fans. And I'm yet to understand what a like actually means for me as a content producer. So part of me thinks that these are independent communities that create, that get together around a piece of content. And we can't influence them. The other part of me thinks that there should be some sort of dialogue, but it's quite challenging to understand. So we tried it with a few things like transactional. So I've got 3 million fans. Would you like to buy an app, which relates to the show that you like? And interestingly, it depends on the type of the show. So not the size of your fan page. Comparing, I think the way people behave on Facebook and Twitter in relation to TV programs is quite similar. YouTube is a completely different world. It's slightly more Wild West. And it's making statements in different ways. So if I'm posting something on Facebook or at Twitter, I'm making a statement to my friends and my community that I'm either liking or disliking or supporting something, whereas you can be a little bit naughtier on YouTube and go a bit wild with your comments. So it's really understanding, I guess, what do we do with these communities, and I still don't know what a like means.
So it's all about harvesting communities. I like this word, harvesting, which is quite interesting. Josh, are you seeing similar different behaviors in the US and on the shows that you guys produce at Relativity?
We do. We notice that people aren't really engaged. We tripped into Catfish. We bought it as a documentary at the Sundance Film Festival, and our television department decided that it would be a good format for a television show. It's been a great example of social media. We've tried to tie in different things, but as we were talking backstage, it seems the US is slightly behind in some of the adoptions of the technology. And we look to see, we find a lot of people who create audiences in the digital space, but they haven't traditionally translated to good television. So our job has been to take those ideas, formats, personalities, and try to make them into television that people want to watch.
And we'll give an example of that a bit later on. So all this is great. It's wonderful. It seems to be working. The question, it seems to be expensive, though. I mean, we were talking about it. So I'm going to turn to you, Rhys, as the voice of reason on this panel, because you're one of our representative of one of our beloved broadcasters. Who should pay for this? And sponsors should be the broadcaster, the producers. What's your opinion on this?
I think you have to first of all see that this is obviously a great turn of time now, really, in terms of bringing the audiences in front of the TV really closer to the format. So as a broadcaster, this is a huge opportunity, especially if you look at the entertainment shows and so on, and as we see the examples there. If you look at the monetization, I think this is still very much a very important marketing tool for the whole format to make the whole wheel spin. Engaging sponsors, etc., is a great way of also finding new opportunities in there, because obviously if you have a top show like American Idol or X Factor, obviously creating a great experience also involves a lot of money to make this app really work, also for hundreds of millions interactions going on there during one broadcast. I mean, we've seen this in the US with American Idol. And yeah, obviously you need to have very powerful tools and technical backends at the other side. But nevertheless, here you have to make the show really, you know, as the center point for your social strategy. If it's edgy, if people like to communicate during the show, then obviously it's a great opportunity to do something there. Just having it per se on, you know, social media there, you will find that maybe it's not really the right strategy to go in there and just invest heavily in a social media strategy, let's say in a drama program or whatever, because maybe that's not where people really want to talk about. They just want to consume. They don't want to interact. So
if I'm to pitch a show to an RTL family member where social is at the core of the strategy, I want to make sure that you'll pay for it. That's what you're saying?
I think you'll have to find a way. I mean, we have these discussions, I think, with Frank's team and so on, so I'd rather keep quiet on that one. So
let's switch gears a second, because and I know it's not fair to put you on the spot for this, apologies. Let's talk about social and so as opposed to a place where we can create. We'll come to that in a second, but let's talk about social as a promotional force. It seems to be working when it's well done. I mean, you have some experience, Frank, and some data you can share with us in terms, not only in terms of download, but in terms of impact on the ratings, which is what a lot of us are still worried about in this room.
Yeah, well, there's not so much I can share, but what we now have seen is, for example, in the US, that a number of shows have been totally financed out of the marketing budget, and the calculations have been that the ratings have gone up significant enough to validate the serious investment in large productions. US seems to be looking at that angle mainly. In Europe and Asia, there's also more interest in direct monetization, in freemium models, in sponsor engagement, in lead generation. So that seems to be different angles in the main different markets at the moment.
But as you showed us, Virginia, I mean, there's a real correlation between social media strategy implemented well and rating success, as translated by formats traveling. Is that right?
I can't say that, because then I didn't work on ratings. Of course, I choose the formats that have the international success, meaning that they have been sold internationally. Of course, they've been sold also because they were successes and they had huge ratings. But actually, sometimes you have very, very high social media buzz on programs from very small channels, and that's what allows you to think, oh, that might be interesting, let's have a look, even if the ratings were not spectacular.
Okay. Is there a way, sorry, do you want to add something?
Well, we also see that sometimes a show with quite low numbers can be very attractive to monetize. If you have, for example, a daytime television with participation, and every participant pays like €1 or €2 to participate, that's serious money for broadcasters. And so it depends on what is your business model, what's the time slot, what is the ambition that you have in that part of your programming. And we see that a lot of attention goes now to more to direct monetization models during daytime and nighttime, for example.
if we look at one part of your empire, Josh, which is the sports agency, I know it's a bit off topic to what we're doing here, but is there anything we can learn from your sports agency that would be useful to the way people are using social to market entertainment formats?
Sure. We've had some luck in helping to sell our movies, where we've had our athletes do simple things like tweet out that they'll appear at a theater and sign tickets for people that buy them on opening night, and obviously they have a tremendous draw. We see the power of sports in the U.S. is fantastic, and since we represent we have a large representation practice of athletes, we're just starting to realize two things: that they can help drive an audience to places, and that they can help promote whether it's our products or our ideas in a way that other people can't. And that's where social is incredibly powerful. That doesn't necessarily cost us a lot of money, and we spend a tremendous amount of money buying traditional media to promote our products. So whether it's a television show or a film or whatever the case is, the athletes, because people have such strong affinity to them, reach this large audience. And that's something very new. I think we're the only ones doing it at this point, because we're the only ones that have the athletes underneath the distribution company.
But we could make the analogy with ensuring that talent tweets directly and establish personal relationship between the talent, a piece of talent in a format, and its fan base. You have some experience of that.
It's an exceptionally effective way of promoting your show. I mean, especially if a secondary channel or a cable channel has a reach of, let's say, 500,000. I mean, we have a show in the UK called The Only Way is Essex, which was a bit of an experiment 2 years ago, commissioned by ITV2. And it became an absolute phenomenon in social space, and it had a much larger viewing online than it actually had in traditional television. So looking, and you're right, the reason why this creates such a kind of huge phenomenon is that not only do you have a TV show brand, but then you have talent within that show who then start their own social storm. So hopefully it just snowballs for everyone's benefit.
So if we start switching gear a bit and evolve more, because we've established that social works when it's well done, we've established that it's a great driver of ratings and promotion. Is there a way that we can harvest social differently? And one of the things we were talking about backstage was this idea of using social media as the editorial force. So everybody's been hearing about data. And most of us, I think, were sharing war stories of trying to bring data from social into a production room. Selma, do you want to talk about some of the shows where you've tried to do this and what happened?
Some of the disasters. I guess there are, essentially we work in television world, and there is a real skill in making an hour of drama or half an hour of reality or a game show, which beams from the main box in a living room, and retains your attention as a viewer. Every time, and I've been trying for years, believe me, you bring a piece of technology or a new mechanic or something that's happening in a parallel world to the creatives, what you end up with is something that works around that mechanic, but it's not a great TV show. But saying that, looking at Who Wants to Be Millionaire, if there was no TV show, that could have always worked as an online or a mobile game in the same way Wheel of Fortune would have always worked in Vegas casino, even if there was no TV show. So I guess it still boils down to that creative delivery, and then seeing how you take the feedback from social. I mean, in an ideal world, I would love to see a mass participation show where the audience at home actually can affect what's happening on TV screen. But I don't know, Rhys, You're going to pick it up?
I think at the moment we are still sort of very much in this experimental phase and actually trying to draw together the conclusions from a really fragmented app world, of a really fragmented kind of data structure. I mean, nobody's really able to harvest a lot there at the moment. I mean, because it's just so small numbers, really format related, and how do you really make any sense out of that? And that's really the challenge ahead, yeah. So actually creating apps, even as a broadcaster, if you have, for instance, in Germany, you have the RTL Inside app, which is just sort of trying to aggregate what is happening on one station. Even that is still one island out of really out of a million, yeah, where you still don't have this aggregated situation where you can actually make any sort of customer or even a client kind of proposal out of it. So that's the future challenge, really, to make this interaction also work beyond the existing formats that are still the key of success into something new or something different or an additional offer.
But is it because the two parts of the world are not talking to each other properly, or because if we take the example of Netflix, for instance, I mean, everybody has read the articles about House of Cards and how House of Cards, the US version, was kind of almost incubated as a lab because they knew that the show would do very well because of Kevin Spacey's following and David Fincher's following on Netflix and stuff like that. So, do you? I mean, Josh, you guys have a preferred relationship with Netflix. Do you think they will do similar things for, or take a similar approach for format and for unscripted, the way they have taken for scripted?
For sure. You know, Netflix starts to differentiate itself through original content, much like HBO and Showtime did in the past. I think House of Cards has been a huge success for them. You know, we provide all of our content to them, and they are a very forward-thinking company. I think you'll see other digital players. We're talking about it backstage. We're working with AOL, Google, Yahoo, you name it. Everyone's getting into the digital space of creating content, and that's to drive an audience, right? And I think that if you can create these social backgrounds, yes, you can drive the audience. Again, our biggest challenge, and I don't know if you guys have seen the same thing, is we were talking about it earlier today. You have someone with millions of followers on YouTube, for example, that doesn't necessarily translate into the television show. And I think that's the disconnect between where social is today and maybe where it's going tomorrow. You have to have the broadcasters and the creatives manage that into good content and then back it up with the social.
And you forgot Hulu in the hands of Peter Chernin, which might be also a very different way if that happens, when that happens, but we'll see. Now, we're starting to talk about social as a source of format, which is something that we wanted to talk about. It's just quite interesting, a format, an idea coming from social. Let's go back to you, Josh. Can you tell us maybe a bit more about Catfish, which you alluded to? And I think we have a bit of a video for folks who haven't seen it here in Europe.
Did you want to play the video?
Yeah, can we play maybe the first minute, and then I can ask you to give us more details about it.
Hey, ready? Sound, levels, everything. Hi, I'm Meek. A couple of years ago, I fell in love online. Hey, Megan. Turns out my crush wasn't who I thought she was. Hi. I thought I fell in love with Megan, but Megan was really Angela. She's just lying to me like that. The weirdest part of all, Angela and I actually became friends. Not only that, my filmmaker friend shot the whole thing and turned it into a documentary that was a pretty big hit. Suddenly, I was getting tons of attention. My inbox was exploding with emails. It is scary to hear stories like yours, but I know in my heart this guy is for me. It seems like everyone in America wanted to tell me about their bizarre online romance. I pursue every single one of these leads, and we should make a show of it. So that's what we decided to do. I'm hitting the road with my filmmaker buddy Max and a group MTV to help people meet their online loves for the first time. Hey. Jason. He is the model.
So it's a crazy phenomenon, and it has certainly taken shape in the U.S. I assume the same thing's happening around the world, where people that have never met each other are not only meeting and interacting, and in this case, may not be the people they thought were on the other side. In several of the stories, even though there's tremendous disappointment that one person was effectively not telling the truth to the other person. A lot of times the people have maintained the relationships. A lot of times they haven't. And I hate to put a spin on the word social, but it's quite a social experiment. You know, this is amazing that people are finding each other through the digital means, and this is a great example. And again, I wish that, you know, I or we could take credit. It was an excellent documentary, and our television department deserves all the credit to say this is something that belongs on television. And this is the perfect example of, if you said, hey, let's just make a show about, you know, people are following it online, and you wouldn't be able to have come up with this content. And now, obviously, there's been several stories in the US, both good and bad, about people meeting online. We're very proud of it. And, you know, it seems to have its own offline following as well. So,
how long before we see the format traveling internationally?
It's a good question. I think you'll see it traveling internationally very quickly.
Great. And Rhys, you also have an example of something that started in Germany, right, with Berlin Day and Night?
Yes, on RTL2, a format from our friends of All3 Media. Berlin Day and Night is, I think, also was here at MIP, I think, last time. It's a fantastic example of a reality show, which is a daily, and people just get hooked on by the characters who really sort of engage directly with their fans on Facebook and tell their own story every day. So we have 2.5 million Facebook followers there, and if somebody has just posted his little piece of personal news that he lost a job and so, you immediately have 50,000 sort of reactions and comments. It's amazing, you know, on how you can create this. And in terms of audience ratings, I think the show has maybe 1.5 or 2 million peaking sort of audience per day. So it's kind of, you know, surreal that there are even more Facebook followers out there, and there's a huge fan community that is working there. And I think these kind of formats just show that there are some really great ways of making the storytelling on other platforms. And obviously TV is the center point, and then it goes to others and it travels back and forwards. And your example is exactly the other way around, but it's a great format, and it's a great idea that actually makes its way through all channels. Yeah.
It's also a show that is traveling, that's what you mentioned. It's going to France, is that right, on MC?
Yes, we now have it on a channel in France, and also in RTL in Hungary. Yeah.
Well, what I like about these is that the integration of text and Skype and social is not forced. It's actually part of the storyline. And I think if people find ways to do that organically in the future, they'll find more success.
Great. Now, there's one big platform that we haven't talked about, which is kind of the elephant in the market, called YouTube. Selma, I'm sure, knowing what I know about Little Dot Studio, which company that you're creating and you're starting, with some of your former colleagues from All3, you have an interesting perspective on working on YouTube as a platform. Can you tell us more about Little Dot and?
So Little Dot Studios is, I guess, a new generation producer and broadcaster. I think we are 16th company within All3 Media Group with a sole focus on YouTube. You might ask why. I guess there are, unfortunately, it's not one of those businesses that you can just describe in one sentence, because there are different bits to it. So coming at it from an existing television program perspective, I think it's time to make your kind of official brand presence on YouTube. So we're creating clip channels based on our TV shows. So that's one part of the business. It kind of is a natural progression from us as producers all of a sudden having to learn how to be direct-to-consumer business. It started with managing Twitter and managing Facebook pages around our TV shows, and now managing relationship with our audiences on YouTube. The second aspect of it is that there is this fascinating world of superstars. There are YouTube millionaires meeting kids who 17, 18, or ridiculously comfortable with pieces of technology and editing, and everyone has a camera and they shoot for fun, and I kind of sit there and go, my first computer was Spectrum ZX. Things have moved on. They're just comfortable with video, and at the same time, kind of bought into YouTube's strategy of not exactly what's happening now, but where does this go? Where is this going to lead to in 3 years' time, when we have enough connected TVs, which are actually connected, and people are using them? We're going to go from the world of 300 to 400 channels to 10,000, and majority of them are going to sit on YouTube. So it's kind of experimenting with content, trying to understand how we produce content for YouTube, because it's not television. It works in a completely different way. And I guess being part of the biggest UK indie, we are looking at new talent, but we're not making assumptions that if something works on YouTube, will work on telly. And we're definitely not making assumptions that talent that we work with on YouTube are interested in television, because loads of them are not quite happy with their own world.
It should be a fun journey. Hopefully you'll find a couple of stars you can work with and bring onto RTL networks around the world.
Yeah, there you go. Business.
I think it's time to open the floor to questions. Do we have anybody who wants to ask a question to this esteemed panel? Wow. Either we put everybody to sleep, or actually we're so complete that nobody has any questions. Anybody? Going once? Going twice? Well, please join me in thanking the panel for all their guidance. Should be a fun journey. Best of luck to you, Selma, and to all of you guys. Thank you.